The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, this is Jill Slinker, the Director of the Department of Student Programs for the Indiana Association of School Principals, and I'd like to welcome you to the Spell Bowl Coaches webinar. Here I am. So, if you've not coached Spell Bowl before, you may be thinking that it's just another spelling bee. Well, it's not. There are significant differences between a spelling bee and the IASP Spell Bowl. So, let me give you the information. All words in the IASP Spell Bowl are written rather than spoken. This is a team event rather than an individual event. Individuals from each team will compete simultaneously with the other teams. And you are timed on your responses. If you're competing as an elementary student, you have 20 seconds to respond, and a junior or senior student has 15 seconds to respond. One of the first things that you need to do as a new coach, or even as a returning coach, is to explore the Spell Bowl webpage. We've gone to considerable time and trouble to update our webpage this past spring. And if you have not visited it since last year's Spell Bowl competition, you're in for a pleasant surprise. We've got a lot of new features on our webpage for you right now. So take a look at a few of those. I'll guide you through those, and you can see our Spell Bowl page. Give it a moment here to come up. Slide this over here. So let's take a look at the Spell Bowl page. Now, the Spell Bowl page is located under the Department of Student Programs. So we have the IASP homepage, and all the way across, you notice that you have the Department of Student Programs as one drop-down box, and then we've selected the Academic Spell Bowl page. The Spell Bowl page itself has quite a few features that will be good for both new and old coaches. We've reorganized it so that items are in sections that make a lot of sense together and will truly help you as a coach. So first of all, if you'll go down, slide down to the resources section, you'll notice we have 6 different categories for our resources. First of all is an overview, just the competition calendars, timelines, etc. We'll examine one of those here in a moment. But then you'll also have registration materials. When those registrations are available, we will have them posted on the sign, or on the website. So, for example, you'll see that the membership form, the DSP membership form is linked here, but the confirmation list, those types of things, they will be posted there when it is time for them to be posted there. Your roster submission forms will be posted on the website, and you also have coach resources, post materials, and then results. One of the new things that we have this year as well is that we now have a full archive of our competition results posted here. We use an online binder service for that, and you can find all of the old Spell Bowl competition results under that. Right now, we still have the state finals posted directly on our page from 2018, but that will be moving to the archives as we move to the next competition year. So this is one good section of information. Lots of links for good information there. Let me scroll to the bottom of the page and let you know what else is available on our website as well. We have a frequently asked questions link, so you can go there. And then we have our dates calendared at this point. So if you need to go ahead and add that to a Google Calendar, you can do that directly from our website now. So continuing to scroll down, we also have blog posts that are now appearing based on our competitions. We'll focus a lot of Spell Bowl blog posts on this page, but other academic competitions as well. If you want to view all of the Spell Bowl news, you just click on that box, and it will have all of our academic competition news that we have posted. For example, that the Spell Bowl word lists are posted for the year. So that's a new feature of the website that we did not have the capability of doing before. We also then have nomination form for Coach of the Year posted on the website, and the DSP, Department of Student Programs, participation form. So that's also available and aware. And of course, we thank our sponsors, as always, Purdue University and the John Anderson Foundation. So let's scroll back up to our overview site, and that's where you're going to find the timelines for the competition. I'm not going to go into too much detail for each timeline because we want this webinar to be available to be used in multiple years. But if you want to know the elementary timeline, just click on that. It will give you the due dates, competition entry form due dates, roster posting dates, roster form due dates, area contest, etc. So all of that will be posted for each of the competitions as we go. We also have posted the word lists for each of the competitions. So you can access the elementary word list under Coaches Resources, the junior word list, or the senior word list. And then there are order forms for coach study aids on the page as well. Really take the time to explore our new website, not only for Spell Bowl, but if you also coach Super Bowl or you're interested in one of our new competitions, such as Future Problem Solving or Academic Quiz Bowl, take the time and explore those pages as well. There's a lot of information and a lot of help for coaches that are posted on those web pages. Let's go back, though, to the presentation itself. So, as I said, the word list is posted. Let me give you a little bit of lowdown on those lists. Each of those will be published in May for the next school year. And we have had those posted on our website since that time. What you need to understand about the word list is that all definitions and all pronunciations come from Webster's 11th edition only. We're not accessing, online dictionaries from Google or anything like that. We are only using one source so that that source becomes the definitive contest authority. So Webster's 11th edition only. If you don't have a copy of the 11th edition, you might want to get a copy of that for your personal library or your school library. The elementary word list has 750 words on it. The junior word list has 1,600 words on it. And the senior word list has 2,700 words on it. Now, let's look at some other terms that you may be wondering about. Let's talk about the team itself. Each level has specific requirements for the team. You can register twice as many students on your roster as who will actually spell on the day of the competition. And we really do suggest that you do this because you're always going to get someone who drops out of a competition because of a conflict at the last minute. So take advantage of how many students you can put on your roster. If you are coaching elementary, you can put 16 students on your roster and 8 of them will spell on the contest day. If you're a junior coach, again, same numbers. You can have 16 on the roster and 8 will spell. Senior coaches, you'll have 20 possibilities on your roster and 10 of them will spell on the contest day. So let's talk about the rounds. What kind of rounds do we have? Well, the number of rounds reflects the number of students on your team, okay? So there are 8 rounds for elementary, and each of the students in those 8 rounds will spell 7 words. So elementary, we have 8 students spelling 7 words. At the junior level, we increase the number of words per round, and we have still 8 students, but they will now spell 9 words. And then at the senior level, we have 10 students who will also spell 9 words. Now, how does this whole thing work? Well, each round, one student from each team competes. You'll send up one student, and every other school will have one student at the table at the time. They'll do all of their words, get a score, and then move on. Okay? Each round itself, while that student is at the desk, that's the round, each round has words of increasing difficulty. So, I'm student A, and my word 2 is probably not going to be as difficult as my word 7. Now, if I'm student F, same thing. My word 2 is not going to be as difficult as my word 7. So each round in the contest should be of similar range of difficulty. So there's no like advantage of putting your best spellers first or your best spellers last. That's just however psychologically you want to put your team together. The questions in total of round 1 are going to be similar difficulty in round 6. Right? So it doesn't make any difference in that way. Right? All of the students will hear the word and hear a sentence, and then they will all write simultaneously. So after 20 seconds for elementary or 15 seconds for the junior or senior, every student's spelling on the stage is graded by a proctor, and then the scores are updated. Okay? So they update them all along, and you maintain a running score for your entire team. So, after round 1, you have so many points. Round 2 is then added to round 1. So let's review the numbers here again. Basically, the maximum students on the roster form, elementary and junior, it's 16, seniors 20. Team members who can participate, elementary and junior is 8, seniors 10. Same for the number of rounds. The number of rounds reflect the number of students on the team. And then words per round, elementary spell 7, junior and senior spell 9. 1 student participates per round. You're allowed 20 seconds if you're in elementary school, 15 junior or senior. And then the words per competition. So when we multiply the students by the number of words they spell, you have 56 in elementary, 72 in junior, and 90 in senior. So not that many words in each round. You're bound to have some ties. Yes, you are bound to have some ties. So we have a tiebreaker process that we go through, and here is the tiebreaker process for Spell Bowl. The first tiebreaker that we use is we look at the number of tiebreaker words that are spelled correctly. The tiebreaker word is the last word in each round. So the last word each student spells on stage is the tiebreaker word. So how many of those out of all of your students competing were correct? That's tiebreaker 1. Tiebreaker 2 is the number of perfect rounds. So how many of your students got all of their words correct? That would be tiebreaker 2. Tiebreaker 3 is the number of nearly perfect rounds. Now, nearly perfect is they only missed 1. Okay? Nearly perfect, they only missed 1. And number 4 then is the number of tiebreaker words spelled correctly in succession. We'll show you that on a score sheet so that you can see more clearly how that would work. Understand that our tiebreakers are successive. So if tiebreaker 1 breaks the tie, you're done. If it doesn't, you move to tiebreaker 2. If that breaks the tie, you're done. If it doesn't, then you move to tiebreaker 3. We don't necessarily use all 4 tiebreakers, but all 4 tiebreakers need to be recorded. So when it's all said and done, what will the score sheet look like? What would a perfect score look like? For elementary, you have 56 words, so a perfect score would be 56. And then you have the 4 tiebreaker scores, 8808. If you think about that, the last word, if everybody got it right, the highest score you could achieve on the number of tiebreakers would be 8. And the number of perfect rounds would be 8. The number of near perfect rounds would be 0, because if every round was a perfect round, you have no near perfect rounds. So that would be a 0. And then the number of tiebreakers in succession would be an 8. So those are the perfect scores for an elementary contest. Same for a junior here, 72, 8808. And then a senior contest would be 90, 9909. So you are the proctor, and you're sitting down, and you're going to proctor this competition. What are you going to do? Well, the good news is you don't have to worry about figuring out tiebreakers anymore. That's not something that you do. You'll have 2 things that you will need to worry about as a proctor in this competition. Number 1, when you sit down to the table with the student there, you will be grading the paper answer sheet first. So they will write their answer on the paper. You will compare it to the answer given by the question reader and determine whether they have gotten the answer correct or not. You'll mark it on the paper whether they've gotten it correct or not. And then you will also have a computer at the desk where you are working, where you will record on the computer answer sheet whether they got the score right or not, whether they got the answer right or not. So this is what you will see when you open up the computer. You will see that you have a spreadsheet. We use Google Spreadsheets here, and it will have the school name in the upper left-hand corner, right? And then what class that they are in. Your job will simply be to enter the score in the box. So if they got the answer correct, you simply enter the letter C. If they got it incorrect, you enter the letter I. And then the spreadsheet will do its magic and do what you need to do with that, okay? Now, the red boxes here are where you enter the score. The boxes with the numbers will be where the score is actually calculated by the computer. So you will enter the answers in the red boxes. Once everybody enters the scores in the red boxes, the official scorekeeper for the competition will then update the spreadsheet, and your score sheet will change to reflect what you entered. So let's take a look at the next sheet, which will have that information. This sheet, diagram A, is what your sheet will look like when you haven't touched it. And then the next sheet is what it looks like when you have completed it. So again, same high school. These are all of the competitors. So we have round 1, round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This would be a high school answer sheet here. They're answering 9 questions. Right? So it's a high school answer sheet. The elementary and the junior high will be shorter, but have the same type of information on those answer sheets. As a proctor, in round 1, we had our first speller here. They got the first one wrong, the second one wrong. They got the third one right, so you put in 2 I's for incorrect for round 1, round 2, and then you entered a C for correct in round 3 and continued on down the line. They only got 2 right in that particular round. Well, once you enter the score and you have an answer in there, then the scorekeeper will update everything. And what you'll notice is where you have entered a C, the score will update and change the screen to green, change that box to green, indicating that they got that one right. And then you can easily cross-check. You can look, and see, okay, round one, here's what you said, here's what it scored. So, you had 2 correct. We have 2 green boxes and a 2 in the round score box below. So that is correct. Okay. The only one that changes to a different color will be the last question in the section. That's the tiebreaker question. And rather than turn green when it is correct, it'll turn purple when it is correct. So, and that's just basically to give you a visual indication that this is one of the tiebreaker questions, so that you can see the difference as you go. Okay, that's all you do. All you do is make sure that you're on the right word, make sure that you're on the right round, enter C or enter I as the proctor, and then the computer will do all the rest of the calculations. You don't have to do any of that anymore. The computer will do that. And so it's going to be updating and changing as you go. But so that you know what the other things are that you're going to be seeing on this sheet, the round score will calculate and be put into this box, right? As they finish, depending upon how they do, the color in this box will change. So for instance, right, at the very bottom of the page, their total score is in yellow so that we can see that easily. Total score is just simply all of the round scores added together at the bottom of that page. Tiebreaker 1, if you will remember, tiebreaker 1 was how many of those tiebreaker questions, the last question in the round, your team got right. So if I take a look at this and I look at my team, I can go back, and since they've put them in purple, they're pretty easy to spot. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 correct. Tiebreaker 1, I've scored a 5. Tiebreaker 2 was how many near perfect or how many perfect rounds your students had. And you had 2 students with perfect rounds, 2 students that got all 9 of their words correct. Notice that those are in dark blue. Right? So the dark blue category is a 2 because you have 2 students that got perfect rounds. The third tiebreaker score was how many students who got nearly perfect or only missed 1 question. Notice you have 2 8s there. So this is a 9-question round. You have 2 8s, so that would be a 2. And then the final score goes to this tiebreaker score goes to this line down here. And that's just simply asking you how many of the tiebreaker questions did your team get right in a row? And I can look at this sheet and see that the maximum number in succession that they got correct was 2. Okay, they had a 2 students in a row who got it right. So that would be a 2 at the end. Those are all calculated for you. You don't have to enter any of these numbers at all. You just have to enter the C and the I for correct or incorrect, and it will keep the score for you. So what do we do with those final scores? How are those calculated? What do we do? Well, the final score is a team score rather than an individual score. And the team scores are calculated by just adding all the team member totals together. The highest score wins, right? If a team isn't full, so if I'm supposed to have a 10-member team and I only have 8 members, then the table is going to remain empty during the rounds where you don't have a speller. The total isn't penalized in any way, but obviously you're not gaining points when you don't have anybody spelling in that round. But that doesn't mean that you can't compete and can't spell anyway. Right? So frequently asked questions here. What's the difference between a team entry and a team roster that needs to be turned in? Well, the team entry is taken care of when you turn in the DSP membership participation form at the beginning of the year. That will get your team entered into the contest. Now, if you are the Spell Bowl coach, but you're not the academic coordinator for your school, you may never have seen that particular form. you need to check with your academic coordinator or with the bookkeeper maybe of your building or the principal of your building to see that your school has been entered into the competition. There are also membership checklists posted on the website that you can check as well. So that's a form that you do at the very beginning of the year just to become a member of the Department of Student Programs, right? So the team roster form will list the individual students on your team who will be eligible to compete and will submit all of those online. So once your team has been entered through the Department of Student Programs participation form, then you as a coach need to submit your roster when the due date comes along. And that is an online submission, which you will find on our website. Now, for more information on all of this, on the team entry, the team roster, etc., check the Coach's Handbook, which is also posted on the website. Information on team entry and team roster is in section 1.5 of the Coach's Handbook. Another frequently asked question: how do I determine which class my team is going to compete in? I don't know what class we are. Well, that also is answered in the Coach's Handbook. That's in section 1.4. Your class is going to be determined by what size your school is, and then depending upon the level, also what grades are included in your school and in your team. So let's talk about those elementary classes. Those are the ones that are relatively complicated here. And I apologize for the check mark that will not disappear from the page, but we'll start with the blue class. Blue class are teams that include sixth graders. You have 187 students and up in your building. Green class also includes sixth graders, but only up to 186 students in your building. So if your building has sixth graders, you have large and smaller class with that. So blue class is the larger class with sixth graders, green class is the smaller class with sixth graders. Orange class then are teams without sixth graders. So if your building doesn't have sixth graders, you have orange class, which is the large class, 163 and up, and then red class, the smaller class, up to 162. So notice we've got them divided. You've got teams that include sixth graders, large and small class, teams without sixth graders, large and small class. And then we have the yellow class. The yellow class is teams that include only fourth graders. So if you have fifth and sixth graders on the team, you have to go with orange and red or blue and green. But if all you have on your team are fourth graders, regardless of the size of the school, doesn't matter the size of the school, then you're going to be competing in yellow class. And you'll only be competing with students in the same class as you. So you're not going to have a group of fourth graders competing against a group of sixth graders. So if all you're on is fourth grade, if all you have is fourth graders on your team, then they will compete with other teams with only fourth graders. Junior classes are simpler than that, but we still have to think about that middle schools and junior highs in the state of Indiana often have different grade configurations in them. So we take that into consideration. And we look, first of all, schools with just students in grades 6 through 8. Okay, if we have 6 through 8 in a school, class 1, is the largest, 720 and over. And then class 2, 3, and 4 will break down based on student population size as well. We also have junior high students and middle school students who just have grades 7 and 8. So if your school just has grades 7 and 8, we also have 4 classes, and that's broken down into a different size category as well. So you'll notice that if you only have 2 grades in the school, the largest class has a smaller number of students in it. So we have class 1, 2, 3, 4, 479 and over for the largest class, and then smaller classes as we go. The senior team is simpler. This is grades 9 through 12. Class 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1,080 and over is the large class, and then we go all the way down to class 4, which is high school students or high schools that only have up to 355 students. So again, these numbers are ones that are reported to the Department of Ed in the fall. And you can generally check with your principals, check with your guidance counselors, or check with your bookkeepers to find what that number actually is. Another frequently asked question. So what's the difference between an invitational contest and an area contest? Well, invitational contests are local in nature. If you want to have an invitational contest, you can make your own rules and you can organize it yourselves. Sometimes you have conference competitions that are done as invitationals. There are also just scrimmages that are done as invitationals. The area contests are organized by the IASP and occur all over the state on the same day. Now, the dates listed here are for the year 2019. Check the website to find future years so that you know when those dates are going to be. Now, for elementary, if you're an elementary contest, these area contests will determine your state placement. So after the elementary contests are over, we will tabulate all of the scores from all over the state and determine our top schools that way. For the junior and senior levels, however, these area contests are going to determine qualification for the state contest. And the state contest then will occur in the morning, late morning for the senior level, and in the afternoon for the junior level at Purdue University. They are our sponsoring organization here. So junior and senior levels, those areas will determine whether you qualify for the state contest, whether you get an invitation for that. And then we will continue that contest then. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the Coach's Handbook. There's a link to the Coach's Handbook on this webinar. That again is located, it is located on the Spell Bowl page. Notice it is Coach's Handbook 2019. Each year we update the handbook. Any changes or recent changes in the handbook will be highlighted in italics, so you can examine all of that at your leisure. I would suggest, if you have not looked at the book in a couple of years, if you are a Spell Bowl coach and you haven't looked at the book in a couple of years, skim through it, check the italics to see if there are any changes that you need to focus on. If you have not coached before, read the Coach's Handbook. It has all of the information that you actually need to coach on that. All of the rules, they're all in the Coach's Handbook. Now, I'm going to close this out because I want to highlight very specific things in the Coach's Handbook here. So a couple things that we want to focus on. Let's talk about challenges. You'll find that in the handbook section 1.17. Challenges. Students can challenge the scoring of a word or the procedure used at the contest by standing between the words or by indicating to their proctor that they wish to challenge and having their proctor stand. So yes, they may challenge how their word has been scored. They may challenge the procedure. The procedural chairperson may also initiate a challenge if they notice something wrong going on. Now, the challenge must be done before leaving the competition table. No challenges to scoring or procedure will be accepted from coaches or audience members or parents or other competitors. All challenges have to come from the competing member of the team while they are on the contest floor. There are no challenges allowed for alternate spellings. Remember that there's only one source that is acceptable in the competition, and that is Webster's edition 11. Okay, so if you're checking an alternate spelling, the only alternate spellings that will be up there are ones that were listed in Webster's 11, and those are the only ones that are accepted. So there are no challenges allowed for alternate spellings. Now, if you happen to need an alternate word in the competition, sometimes there's a technical glitch and things happen. But we have provided a list to the host with alternate words if you need them, okay? And there's a procedure to go through if we do need that. Now, if your student got the original word correct, depending upon the situation, they may not have to spell an alternate word as well. That's up to the procedural committee at the site, and it depends on the situation itself. Okay, let's talk handwriting here. We know this is not a handwriting competition. However, it is a written competition. And if the proctor cannot read your contestants' handwriting, they cannot score them correct on the question. So you've got to emphasize to your students that they need to take their time and be as neat as they possibly can with their handwriting on this test. So all words must be legible. Students may print or write in cursive, that's up to them, but they have to be legible. Now, words that are to be capitalized must be capitalized. If the word is supposed to be capitalized and it's not, it will be counted incorrect. Words that are not to be capitalized will be marked wrong if they are capitalized. A clear distinction must be evident in relation to the size of the capitalized letter in the event that all capital letters are being used. There will be no penalty for mixing lower and uppercase letters printed after the initial letter. So let me give you an example here. All of these would be acceptable if we have just a standard capital I for Indiana. If they make the capital I really large in Indiana so that you know that it's the capital I in Indiana, that's fine. If they print, and when they print, they do block printing and they use all capital letters, that's okay too, as long as a capital, what you are indicating to be the capital letter, is truly larger than the rest of your lettering. What would be unacceptable would be having it all caps with all the letters the same size, or no caps at all. Those would be unacceptable for the spelling in the state of Indiana. Couple of other things. Students must cross T's and X's and dot I's and J's so we know what they are supposed to be. Now, students are not required to use diacritical marks, but if a diacritical mark is used, it must be correctly placed or the word is wrong. So either all or no diacritical marks must be used for a word to be correct. As a result, we suggest to you that you don't have students use diacritical marks. We're talking about accents and tildes, those types of diacritical marks, right? Hyphenated words must be hyphenated. Two-word terms must be clearly written as two words, space between them. And apostrophes must be included when they are called for in a word. So diacritical marks are not necessary, but punctuation marks like apostrophe and hyphens are necessary, right? So keep that in mind when coaching your teams. Now, in correcting a word, crossouts are preferable. Erasures are acceptable. That's fine as long as the final spelling is clear and completed prior to the buzzer. That's where you run into challenges. Right? Let's talk about some tips and suggestions here. Always begin by reading. Read the coach's handbook. Read the frequently asked questions on the website. Please read any emails sent from us at the IASP office or sent from your host site coordinator. It will have all of the information you're going to need for your local competitions and for your competitions at state and the information there. Read. Recruiting, yes, is a challenge for every coach. We know this. Kids are busy, especially at the high school level. Kids are busy. They're involved in all sorts of different things. And, why are they going to make spelling a priority? Well, that one's up to you. You've got to find a way to do that. You can get teacher recommendations. Who would they recommend to come in? Use recruitment posters. Check out your foreign language students, especially those ones that take French. They've got to do some funky spelling in order to do well in the French language. Search them out. You're going to find people who want to do this. Check with your other academic teams. Find if you have a club for reading. You have a great book society. Kids who love to read are better spellers than kids who don't. So if you have that kid who's always got his nose in the book in the back of the classroom, hey, he's a perfect person to go for. Right? Search them out. Some other contest coaching tips that you might want to think about. Going back to that crossing out. Cross out mistakes rather than erasing. It will save time. It's a lot faster to just cross out a word than it is to erase it and rewrite it. The other thing, if you're not sure, if the student is not sure, and they're debating between two words, write it out both ways and then cross out the wrong one rather than writing it out, crossing it out, and writing out a new one. That way you're not going to get stuck with not having the correct word written before the buzzer sounds. Find ways to make capital letters and spaces very obvious. You've emphasized that enough. This one is kind of different. Write down odd penmanship trends on the back of your score sheet for your proctor before the round begins. So if you have a really weird way of making a Z and that's just what you do and always do that, write that down beforehand so that they know that that is your method. I don't suggest that. What I suggest is that you use a standard way of making a letter and move from there. So remember, diacritical marks are not required. If you're not a purist, tell your students don't use them. If you can't find a word in the front part of Webster's 11th, don't forget the biographical and geographical sections at the back of Webster's 11th. We just said you had to use Webster's 11th. That means the whole book. Merriam-Webster's website will help you out with an audio pronunciation and a definition. That's www.m-aw.com. So you should be able to find that. Or it might be m-.com. Check that out on your own here. Right? The good news about Spell Bowl, the joy of Spell Bowl, is you already know what's on the test. It's not like you have to research and figure out what we are going to ask. We tell you every word that is on the test. So you just have to figure out which one we're going to use. So your goal, of course, is to have all of your students know all of the words on the list. Obviously, that's easier said than done. Let them know they've got to practice writing the words, not just reading the words and seeing them in front of them, but physically writing the words out. That's going to help them. Try breaking up the list into various groupings rather than alphabetical. I know the first couple of years when I coached Spell Bowl, I was doing it, well, we're going to do page A, the A page today or the B page today. Break it up beyond that because alphabetical isn't going to do them a whole lot of good in the long run. So try breaking it up into specialized lists and make them break it up into the specialized list, like words with capital letters or words with silent letters or hyphenated words or words with apostrophes or, words that end in IBLE versus ABLE or words that are actually two words on your list. TION versus SION, or thematic words, or words from Latin and Greek, okay? Or, divide them up by part of speech. The more the kids interact with the word list and take ownership of it, the better off they will be when it comes to the spelling day. So, talk about setting some goals a little bit. Your goals are going to help you determine your practice schedule, your team commitment, and more. How many students do you actually want on your team? I would recruit even more than the roster allows and then pick from there. How well do you expect to do? Do you expect to win state your first year? Do you expect to be invited to state your first year? Do you expect it to be the top 10 team in the state your first year? What does success look like to you? It may be having a full team and having a good time. It may be winning state. You determine for the kids that you have what success really looks like and go from there. Another thing that will help you: attend or host an invitational contest. Now think about this. A football team wouldn't show up for the first game without scrimmaging first. It's just not going to happen. Okay? So you're going to need to find local teams, do something informal. This doesn't have to be a formal contest day. It can just be a scrimmage. You can compete. You can pit one group of students against another group of students in a contest. You can pit a group of students against a group of teachers in your building if you can get them to volunteer to come and do that. What about the 4 elementary schools in your corporation? You can meet one afternoon and do a whole practice round with them. It's a great way to keep all students involved, even those who may not be able to get a spot on the team itself on the contest day. The whole point is to get coaches and students familiar with the process of the contest. The more comfortable they are with the process of the contest, the better they will do on contest day. Another thing that we have available for you is we do have study aids that are optional and available for purchase. These basically will provide a pronunciation, a definition, and a sample sentence for each of the words on the official Spell Bowl word list. Now, we have 3 levels available for that. If you have the elementary spell word list, it'll be $40, $45 for the junior, and $50 for the senior. And this, of course, reflects the fact that you have 750 words on the elementary list versus 2,700 words on the senior word list. Okay. The order form is on the Spell Bowl page under the coach's resources if you would want to order that as a study aid. So, on the day of the contest, how does this work? What will it look like? Well, this is how it works and what it will look like. You will have the screen showing above you, and the question reader will read the question. The time will start. The student has the time to answer the question. There will be a 5-second warning bell before the time is up, which is not reflected here in what I'm going to show you, but there will be a 5-second warning bell in what is up, and then a time's up slide, and then the word will be scored. So let's show you what it would be like for practice. Round 1, word 1. Round 1, word 1. Yardstick. When I was younger, my mother would always use a yardstick to measure my height on my birthday. Yardstick. Begin. Now, it's a very quiet tone here, but during the competition, you can hear that tone pretty loudly. We would have pencils up, please. The screen would advance and give the correct spelling, Y-A-R-D-S-T-I-C-K, yardstick. The proctor would score the sheet, and then they would move on to the next question. That's how it works. If you have any further questions, first thing I would tell you to do is check the coach's handbook, then check the website. And if neither of those places gives you the answer that you need, please feel free to contact us. Again, my name is Jill Slinker, jslinker@iasp.org, or you can contact Diane Abel, dabel@iasp.org, and we will do our best to answer any questions that you have. So, thank you for your attention to this webinar. Happy spelling.